right, here we are. Hey, the war is on. Artificial intelligence isn't just changing search. Search is changing artificial intelligence. So what exactly is AI search anyway? So we're going to talk about today on AI mistakes. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about search, maybe perhaps understanding what search AI really is, stick around. We've got a lot to talk about, and I've got some great examples to show of the world of AI search. So what does it mean? What is this AI search thing? Well, I'm going to start off with this fundamental idea that AI search is an increasingly important part of our daily experience of AI. I know it is for me, and I suspect that it's increasingly the case for you. You may recall not that long ago, Google actually decided that generative search capabilities had to be a part of your search experience on google.com. So, why is it that all of these big players, Microsoft, Google, and now OpenAI, are getting into the search plus AI game? In fact, I think where we need to start is what is AI search? Because the reality is it is both AI powered search and search powered AI. And the lines are a little bit blurry because they both use the power of large language models behind the scenes. But there's more to it than simple generative AI. In fact, when we talk about search technology, everybody knows Google, right? And it hasn't been the role of generative AI from the get-go. In fact, there's a lot of tech behind just simply finding good search results. And so I think we should talk about this in a little greater detail today because I did some research and having understood the power of AI search, what search AI really is all about, I thought we should talk about some of the elements of AI search. Now, the first and probably the most critical is this concept of natural language processing. And if you've been around the world of AI, this is terminology that is not new. It's been around for quite some time. In fact, some of the biggest brains in the world have been trying to figure out how to make this concept of natural language processing actually work. Even from the very early days of Google, there was this ambition to be able to understand what people were saying, to be able to get the semantics of human communication in order to provide better search results. And I think today we're finally at a point where we have reached not only the ability to understand and find search terms, individual words, or perhaps even phrases, but actually to deeply understand the meaning of what it is that you're searching for. You see, the human language that we have, regardless of the actual language you choose, mine happens to be English, there's a lot of complexity that gets encoded into the language that we speak. Oftentimes, it's very difficult to understand complicated concepts. You can use the same word to describe multiple things. And when you take them out of context, you get completely different meaning. And when we talk about this concept of continuous learning, that's yet another dimension because language changes over time. The way that we communicate with each other, the meanings of the words that we use continue to evolve and change. So it's not enough to simply one time understand the meaning of a word. It has to be constantly evaluated over time. I had a conversation with one of my kids this week about the use of the word literally. Well, I don't know, maybe the dictionary is going to have to change that one, but that's a prime example of how our language evolves and changes over time. And then point four here really does bear a little bit of discussion because what we've been talking about in the AI space, particularly in AI search, has been specifically the domain of words and language. But as the sophistication of the foundation models continues to improve, and as the capabilities continue to evolve, we have to begin to integrate other portions, other bits of information. And today that means text, that means images, that especially means audio, and increasingly that means video. If you've been around and seen the news lately, you also know that there's kind of been some trouble about who's training on YouTube videos and who's actually allowed to do that. We haven't seen any fallout from that yet, but I think there's no doubt at this point that many of the most well-known models are training on video, and YouTube happens to be one of the very most accessible ways to do that. Multimodal is a thing that's here to stay, and I think OpenAI really illustrated this point well by being able to incorporate voice and text, images. I mean, they really have brought everything together. So this concept of AI search really does expand into multiple different spaces. And when we talk about AI search, there's a few fundamental elements to this that I need to help you understand. And the first is that we have had traditional artificial intelligence capabilities to improve our search results and understand what it is that we're trying to find. There are all sorts of mechanisms built into tools like Google. If you have ever tried to copy a link from a Google search, you might have noticed that there's an incredibly long string of alphanumeric characters after the link. In fact, the link isn't the text that you see. In fact, it isn't even a link to the website of the search result. It's actually a link that takes you right back to Google and lets Google know that you're clicking on the search result. There's all sorts of additional information that's encoded in that string of text so that Google can not only understand what you are visiting as a user, so that they can understand what you're interested in, but they're also profiling. Was this the result that they were looking for? If you wind up clicking on the fifth link in the search, and that happens again and again across many people across a period of time, that's an indicator to Google that the search results that you're looking for are not coming up first. In the old days of actually getting search results to your query on the first page above the fold, now we have so many ads, it's quite difficult to even find the thing that you're looking for because you have to sort through the ads to get to the actual link. But when we were clicking on those targets in the very early days, it was a very easy to understand system, but they have built system upon system upon system to improve the results of search. And what has happened is with the power of AI search, it's really sort of creating some difficulty in the space. Google is no longer the guaranteed winner. In fact, there's been quite a few organizations that have shown up to start presenting their solutions for AI search. And that's part of why I want to use this terminology of the war is on, because we're seeing increasing competition in this space. And I think it's good for you and I because there's a lot of value to be reaped from this concept of AI search. And not unlike Google, it is a unique experience for you and I because the organizations that are building these capabilities are taking what you and I look at, what you and I think about, our history, our background, everything that they can learn about us as a user is going into being incorporated in these search results. There's a lot of customization options. And if you are using the likes of Google's search capability, if you are using Perplexity like I am, if you're using Copilot from Microsoft, or if you're using SearchGPT from OpenAI that we'll get to in just a moment, there are some customizations that are possible. There's some additional information that you can provide to the system so that it knows more about you. And that does lead to more customized AI search and search with AI capabilities. And these things matter because at the end of the day, the reason that we all care about this capability is that it saves us time. In fact, one of the big reasons why I am such a huge fan of Perplexity, and we'll talk about that here again in a moment, is that it has been an incredibly powerful tool in my toolbox. I use it every day, many times a day. You'd be surprised how I use it, but it's very flexible. And through the power of prompting, I'm also able to get some very highly detailed results and answers. And what's really great is I can even use exactly the same prompt over time to get more relevant search results based on what's happening in the news. So it's not a point in time even though the prompt is not changing, it's able to update those search results. And we're seeing this as a common theme across all of the capabilities because sometimes you need to repeat exactly the same thing, not necessarily expecting exactly the same results, but the same practice is taken up and the passage of time has to be incorporated into those results. So, time is really an important element of this AI search. It's also an important element of actually being able to prepare these results because when we're talking about AI search, it's not just taking all of your answers and bundling them up, putting them into a retrieval augmented generation mechanism that takes all of those search results and answers and gives them to a large language model to compose or generate an AI response. Those results that are found from a search query have to be compiled and renewed and updated and managed over a long period of time. So it is not simply throwing a bunch of text at a large language model and seeing what comes out of it. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. And all of the research that we have done over the many decades of building out the capabilities of AI go well beyond what you and I experience on a daily basis with the power of generative AI through tools like ChatGPT. Now, one of the real weaknesses that OpenAI has had in their tool is this element of when the data has been sourced. In fact, in the very early days of ChatGPT, we had this thing that was a cutoff date. Now, increasingly, the cutoff date is not something that we have to be concerned about, but it is something that is a detail you have to be really aware of when you're using OpenAI, particularly ChatGPT, because there is a very known cutoff date to the results that are given. Now, what's interesting is that Copilot is largely backed by GPT-4, GPT-3.5, and that cutoff date could come into the search results or it might not. Increasingly, Microsoft has done a lot of work to get that issue out of the results that they're providing. But honestly, when I'm using Perplexity, when I am using Google search, Gemini, I don't even think about a cutoff date because it's just not an issue. The way that they have put it together in their service offering allows me to get the personalized results that I want using the latest search results without me ever having to give a second thought to, hey, when was this model updated? Because I'm not getting information purely from the model. And that's really the key here. When we talk about AI search, we're combining the power of a search query with a traditional search capability that is enhanced with the power of artificial intelligence, not generative AI, traditional AI that includes the traditional disciplines that we've been talking about on the channel over a long period of time. And then combining that and taking advantage of the power of a large language model. In fact, where we've gotten to now is a little bit fuzzy because it's kind of difficult to discern which AI are we talking about when we talk about AI search. And when you have the likes of Perplexity, they're using both AI search and generative AI. They were using that day one. Google has really layered on generative AI to their existing search engine, and Bing did something completely different by how they incorporated Copilot. But what we have now today is an entirely new entrant to the ecosystem, and that is OpenAI. Now, a few weeks ago, I even had on the channel a story about the introduction of SearchGPT. And OpenAI have already said, look, this is an experiment. It's temporary. This isn't the final thing that we're going to turn out. I do think it's very interesting. And it's also very interesting that they are choosing to do this specifically as an experiment. The end goal here with what OpenAI are trying to achieve by releasing this capability is spoken. It's written out. They're telling us what they think is important. I'm not sure that I 100% buy into what it is that they're telling us. I think we need to talk about that a little bit. But I thought, because we have these four different solutions, they're all cloud solutions. And by the way, this isn't all that's available. It just happens to be the most widely known, widely accepted, or most commonly used options for doing AI search combining the power of large language models and traditional search capabilities. Because there's a lot to master here. It's not as simple as it appears at first blush. And in fact, finding information about your own documents is another element to all of the capabilities that we're talking about here. What I'm not going to cover in detail is RAG that is highly leveraging documents, specifically documents that you are providing to the search engine. But I do want to point out that all four of these solutions have the ability to search using their own search data and information, but you can also give it a specific file or a set of files that you want it to use in answering the question. A lot of the technology behind doing that is exactly the same, whether it is search information or whether it is using your own documentation. So we'll save that deeper RAG discussion for another time. It's probably also time for us to do an update of tools like GPT for all, but I'm going to focus on just the cloud solutions for today's discussion. All right. So where I want to start, of course, is my personal favorite, Perplexity, because it's what I use the most. In fact, you even see it here up in my toolbar, because sometimes I just want to ask something real quick. I don't want to leave the page I'm on. I want to get a quick answer without leaving the context of where I am, and I can even summarize the information that's on the page. But I'm gonna pull this out of the way here for just a minute, and we're going to look at the different search results. Now, this is a very simple example, and I picked this today because I was actually I had a random thought, and I was thinking about this concept of a Stirling engine, and I thought it would be an interesting way for us to actually get in to talking about the capabilities here. But before I do that, what is it that OpenAI is up to? Well, let's look at Perplexity first and take a look at what the results are that we're getting in Perplexity. Now, full disclosure, I am a paid user of Perplexity, and I use the Pro Search capability in Perplexity. That means it does a little bit more, so I get a little bit better results, and I really appreciate that. It's a big time saver, and it's a customization that I get to choose from every time I do it. And basically, what's happening here is that Perplexity is doing a multi-step process in looking at my query. Now, I simply said, what is a Stirling engine? And it started to learn about what a Stirling engine is. And then it started to look for specific features, uses, and principles of Stirling engines. And you see there that it capitalized Stirling. So it already understood what a Stirling engine was as it was even going after the Pro Search. Now, one of the sources it's citing here is Wikipedia. It's also got these other results that is using to bring those answers together. A few sites that you may or may not be familiar with. I'm personally familiar with how stuff works and explain that stuff. Of course, everybody is familiar with Wikipedia, but having multiple sources to bring together the information is a key part of what we're talking about here. Now, it's extracting that information and building an answer. So it's giving us a definition. It's a heat engine operated by a cyclic compression, an expansion of air or other gas between different temperatures, converting heat energy to mechanical work. Now, that's all good and fine. Words are useful, but I got to be honest, pictures can be even more useful, and animations also can be extremely useful. So what we're getting here with the answer from Perplexity isn't just the written answer sourced from those websites. It's also the imagery, providing additional ways for you to understand and learn about whatever it is that you've typed in. So this concept of multimedia and bringing together multiple sources in one place to provide a quick answer is highly valuable. Now, one of the things that we see here is as we're looking at this, it's pulling these results from many different places. And oftentimes that means it is simply sourced from many different websites. See here, we've got for this image, we've sourced it from cmps-people.ok.ubc.ca. Now, I'm not familiar with that site, but I'm seeing the image that came from there. I can easily see the source. So there is some attribution, right? But is there any compensation? Well, no. In fact, when you're getting a search result from a tool like Perplexity, there's absolutely no compensation going on behind the scenes. And that is one of the things that OpenAI is kind of picking on. Now, we're going to go through all four of these because I think they all have something interesting to share. But before I go into OpenAI, look, there's some key things that are going on here. Okay. This AI search thing is absolutely important. And it's the future, in my view, on many different planes. But one of the things that OpenAI is proclaiming on their site is that they're committed to an ecosystem of publishers and creators. And so their angle here is that they're helping people to discover sites and experiences that they wouldn't otherwise. I'm not really sure how much I buy into that answer. I mean, look, OpenAI is saying this is a new way to search. Clearly, it's not. They're not the first group to come up with this. Google forced it in their site and got themselves in big trouble for it. But even before that, we had the likes of Perplexity. In fact, Perplexity is my favorite for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is that they were kind of the first to really make it work really well. We had the ability to search Bing inside of ChatGPT, and honestly, I never liked that experience. And given the choice between using Bing with OpenAI in Copilot or ChatGPT with Bing Search, it wasn't even a contest. I mean, Copilot won that one straight out of the gate. But by that time, I had already understood what Perplexity was doing, and I liked the experience I was getting much better. They've continued to evolve it. I love the concept of having the collections where you can organize your files, and then I get some other advantages from Perplexity as well. But let's take a look at the other options just so you can get a good idea of kind of what's out there. I'll start with Bing because I think it's definitely competitive, but one of the challenges with the Copilot experience, I still feel like it's very sparse. I mean, we've got some graphics that are brought in here from I don't know, I don't know, I don't know even what's going on here. I mean, it's not a great user experience. I even did the app extraction from the use of the Edge browser that's provided by Microsoft on my Windows 11 PC. And I had to put it in the app because the in-browser experience on Edge, there's a lot going on. And I like that they're trying to incorporate Copilot. I mean, the ability to turn on Copilot and for me to talk into the microphone and get these results has been really great. I've talked about that on a previous video on the channel. And honestly, I can't even show you what's going on with the ability to use Copilot because the screen that I'm using to control all of this conversation is another screen, and they haven't given me the control to move that bar around. So I can't show it to you today in the conversation, but you can see the search results. What I like about these search results is it's pretty simple. Like it has very clearly extracted this information and it's presenting it to us in a very straightforward manner. It's pulled out some key points, but this is definitely not my favorite answer. I really liked the simplicity and the table presentation that I was given from Perplexity. I really feel like Perplexity makes it easier for me to learn about a thing instead of just reading paragraphs. So already we're seeing a major difference between the options that are available. Now, Google being sort of the progenitor of search, I'm going to go to them next. Now, full disclosure, this is their Gemini large language model capability. This is really more the AI with search capability than it is search with AI. Because if you go to google.com and you search for something, you have the option to opt into and turn on the generative search, which allows you to see the summary of some of those search results in your Google experience. I prefer this because when I'm doing work on something, more often than not, I'm trying to learn rather than just get a bunch of search results. So I find this to be a much better experience. Again, we have some things that are extracted very clearly. It has understood what I've asked for. It's gone out, it's collected that information. And I really say that Gemini and the Bing experience are definitely more similar. The real disappointing thing here is that there's absolutely no media whatsoever. There's no imagery provided here, and there's probably some very good reason for that. The one thing that Google does have in their favor is this concept of a draft, where having clicked on it, it will actually present you with a couple of different text options of output for how it's going to answer the question. So you can choose between them and maybe perhaps improve what it is that you're seeing, what your results are from Google specifically. But again, no imagery is provided here at all. So uh, it's I think this is a little bit improved over the search experience, because I am only getting what I want, but what I get in the search experience oftentimes is different multimedia options. I can very quickly jump over to images. So I think Google has an opportunity to improve here. But let's talk about the new entrant, SearchGPT. Now, what's interesting about this is they are providing what seem to be a lot more search results and inputs to the answer that they're providing. I mean, you saw what Perplexity gave me, and it had about 5 sources. So already it looks like we've got more sources that SearchGPT is bringing in to show us. Now, in Perplexity, we had Wikipedia and how stuff works, explain that stuff. Definitely had those. We even had energy education. But look, we got some more here. We've got somebody's WordPress blog, the electrical e-library, the engineering team, very clearly a YouTube video that they pulled up, which Perplexity does as well. Not really sure why that was a miss on this question. And then Mechanical Boost is also new. The composition of this answer, though, seems to be largely sourced from Wikipedia. And I don't know. That's interesting. I'm not really sure why they're emphasizing that. Now, they are providing us the ability to click on the image and see the image. So it is giving us a multimodal answer. I'm not sure that I understand the deference to Wikipedia out of the gate. I do think there's maybe some opportunity there. They are sourcing some of the other options here, so you can easily click on those and bring them up. And you've got some further links here that we can explore. We can turn the exploration on and off. They also provide the ability to jump right back to the search. And then, of course, it's got a media button that lets you see all of the media. So now we're getting to a point where, oh, wait a minute, it looks like the folks at OpenAI really did look at their competition, and they understand that, in my view, the leading tool, Perplexity, provides this kind of search results. And I'm not sure how I feel about the UI, but I definitely think that this is a good combination of choices. They've really done their homework to build out this experience. In fairness, I'm still not using this as my default, and they give you a great big button. In fact, what I did like is that I only had to click one button to turn SearchGPT into an app on my PC. And that's basically a mode of the browser where it's a dedicated window. So it's not just a tab amongst the many screens that you have already open in Chrome. That was pretty nice. I had to customize and do that on my own in Perplexity. In fact, in the video that I cover Perplexity, I even included steps on how you could do that. So OpenAI really did think through some of the details of the experience that they are giving here. So I really would have to say SearchGPT has done a pretty darn good job, quite honestly, of incorporating this. And, they're stretching the truth a little bit. I mean, a new way to search. I mean, come on, you're not the first to figure this out. It may be a new way to search with the likes of GPT. And it is a prototype, so it's not really clear how long we're going to have this experience. It's taken me until this week to actually get the access to SearchGPT as a prototype. They could pull it back at any time. They could decide to change it. It's anybody's guess what they're actually going to do with it next. So we'll have to wait and see where that's going. But I don't know. Maybe it's the gravity of already having the thing that I have in my hand. But there's also some additional capabilities inside of Perplexity that I really appreciate that just aren't matched by SearchGPT. And honestly, I'm not getting results that are so much better in SearchGPT that it's going to pull me out of this experience and into that one. I get very clear upfront information here that's multimedia. I can add more or less details based on my preferences. And then I've got my traditional large language model summary details and bullet points. This is much more clean. And I tell you what, SearchGPT absolutely cannot do. Through the power of Perplexity, I can actually go in here and say, you know what? Maybe I don't like the Claude 3.5 Sonnet result. Maybe I want to see what GPT-4o is going to say. Or maybe I want to see what Perplexity is going to give me as a result. I have a lot more choices for what's going to write the answer. Now, arguably, this is going to use exactly the same search results. It's going to run the same process in creating that search result, but it's going to use a different generative AI model to write the answer. And you can already see that these answers are quite a bit different based on that selection. And especially when you're like me and you're creating something, if you're writing a new report, if you're thinking about a topic, you're pondering it, trying to figure out how to approach it, being able to click that button and get multiple different results or views to the same kind of information is extremely useful. It's almost like being able to create multiple different drafts when you're writing a document for the first time. I find increasingly that I'm not taking the first result that I get back from a large language model. I'm having a conversation. I'm asking multiple questions. I'm looking at it in many different ways to make sure that I understand it first. And that's really valuable. That's why I like a tool like this, because it just gives me the flexibility, not to mention the other capabilities like bookmarks and converting into a page to actually create content. There's a lot of good stuff here in Perplexity, and that's why it is ultimately my favorite. So look, kudos to OpenAI for making good progress and changing things. I'm not here to knock all of the providers for the work that they're doing, but the reality is I think Google's still got quite a bit of work to do, even though they've got some good things going on. OpenAI also has some work to do, and look, my money's gonna keep going to Perplexity because it really is that much better for me. I get all of the information I need, I get the transparency, and I get their focus on continuous learning, which is ultimately what I'm all about. So where does that leave us with today's conversation? Well, from the future of AI search, here's what to look for. Here's what to watch for. I think we're going to see all of these providers continue to evolve what they're offering. And I think it's only good for you and I. We're going to see continued multimodal integration. They're going to make it easier to consume video, to talk to it, to have a conversation, to look at images and see things from multiple different dimensions. I can see a future where we're even adding the third dimension, or perhaps the fourth dimension of time, by being able to look at what the results would have been over a period of time. I mean, we have had capability like that in Google's Earth, where you're able to visit places around the world and see what they look like today, but also go back in time and see what they look like in the past. So there's a lot of room and opportunity for product development and capabilities to come our way. I definitely think we're going to see that coming along. The other area that is going to be most interesting to me is this concept of predictive search. What does that even mean? Well, traditional AI capabilities have built-in prediction opportunities. It is where it is using the data that is available to make a forward projection of what is expected to happen next. Imagine what it can be when we're able to have a conversation through generative AI about what the future might look like using predictive capabilities. Look ahead, anticipating your needs, thinking about what it is that you're searching for in a forward direction, not just where you are today. We're already seeing some of this with the follow-up questions. And that's another area that I really appreciate. In fact, you know what? I didn't cover that in enough detail. Let me pull that back up here just to call that out. When we look at what we have with SearchGPT, you get your answer and you're done. But once again, this is why I love Perplexity the most, because we've got all of these related questions. I can quickly jump into the next thing. It's trying to predict what it is that I want to do. So it's enabling me to ask that next question. Now, arguably, not all of those questions are valuable or even pertinent to what it is that I'm searching for, but it's giving me the opportunity to go there and it's trying to read ahead of what it is that I'm going after. And then, probably the biggest dimension here that's going to affect all of us over time is this concept of decentralized knowledge bases. Now, in my example here, I talk about the concept of blockchain technology for more transparent and democratized AI search system. What does that even mean? Well, look, if you've seen the news, you know that fake news is a problem. And you probably also recognize that being able to create things with AI makes this problem a little bit more difficult. I mean, how can you even tell what's true, what's real, what's accurate anymore? And look, I spent a lot of time studying blockchain technology, working on things like the metaverse. And I have to tell you, I really think that we are headed for a time and space where even if it's not blockchain technology, we'll need something to authenticate the reality of something that is produced. And so, this concept of having knowledge that is in some way vetted, protected, or authorized is something that we're going to see. We're always going to see different disciplines have proprietary data and information that is in some way protected or segregated from the general data stores. So that's definitely something we're going to see. And I think you're going to see more and more organizations are trying to convert the proprietary data that they have into a monetary capability. We've already seen this with agreements. Quora's licensed their data, Reddit is licensing their data. There's going to be more and more of these specialized data sets that are cordoned off or separated or in some way specialized to decentralize the knowledge. That's where we are today. And look, there's so many things going on in the world of AI. I really love having the opportunity to do this. And we have an opportunity right now to have a chat, a discussion. I see there's a few of you that are on with us live. So before I close out the time today, I just want to open it up. Do you have any questions about what I've shared today? Is this interesting? Are you excited about the power of AI search or searching with the power of AI, whatever you'd like to call it? I think we're in for a really fantastic future with these capabilities. And I'm honestly really excited about what I'm seeing. Honestly, I've been really disappointed with OpenAI and how they integrated search into the tool. And I think they're finally beginning to figure it out. This is good news for all of us. There's a lot to come, and there's a lot of opportunity to talk about AI, to learn about AI. And I want to help you. Look, one of the reasons I started AI Mistakes was to really help people understand and get educated about all of the incredible AI technology that is developing around us. I mean, we talk about brand new things practically every week on the channel, and it's just happening, right? And there is no one person that can keep up with all of it. There's ample opportunity for all of us to learn and explore. And that also means that there's an opportunity for you in the marketplace. If you are skilling yourself up, if you're learning how to use this technology, apply it to the things that are valuable in the marketplace, that's a marketable skill for you. That's going to lead to opportunities for you. And that's what we're all about here on AI Mistakes. But it's well more than that, because you have to start working with the technology. You have to go and be open to making mistakes with AI in order to educate yourself. And then you also have to be willing to try these things out before they're fully baked, which means you have to be willing to accept the AI mistakes. And that means humans have to be involved ultimately. For how long are we going to have a human in the loop to really have this stuff work right? I don't think anybody knows. I think it's going to be a long time before we can fully trust these systems to operate fully on their own. And to be honest with you, as a human, I kind of like the human being a part of the process. Let's make this a capability, a tool for those of us that are doing work to become better educated, to get our job done more effectively, and to help other people. That's really at the heart of what I'm here to do with AI Mistakes. So I hope you're finding this valuable and useful. And I just want to say, go make some mistakes. We'll see you next week here on AI Mistakes.